I was walking through my living room when I saw my father looking through this dictionary, searching for the word Brexit. He couldn't find it, so I explained. It's like exit, but a terrible idea. The dictionary he was reading is no ordinary book. This is our family's English-Arabic dictionary.
For all our lives, our father has had this dictionary. But it was only recently we knew how it came to him. In 1980, my father was a 16-year-old boy and living in the city of Homs, Syria. He was at home when the military came and arrested him. His parents could not see him for 11 years. He was taken into the infamous Palmyra prison, well known of its horrible record of human rights abuses. For 7 years, he was subjected to brutal torture and mistreatment.
After Palmyra, he was moved to another prison and was seen by a doctor for the first time. The doctor asked what he could do to help, and the only thing my father wanted was an English dictionary. At that time, they were illegal, but it was all my father wanted.
So the doctor hid the dictionary inside a medicine bag and smuggled it into the prison. To protect the paper, my father found another prisoner's Xray and used it as a cover. An Xray is a picture taken to discover what inside of us is broken. This Xray was taken by the authorities who were trying to do the breaking. But for my dad, this made him unbreakable. He used it to learn English as a relief from torture, and it was his only way to escape the harsh reality of his fate. The dictionary gave him the feeling of freedom and hope. Hope of surviving, hope of traveling the world and having a new life. And when my father was released, he was fluent in English. So thanks to this dictionary.
After 11 years in prison, our father was released. During this time, his parents had no idea whether he was alive or dead. And his father had passed away while he was in jail. Despite their hard experiences, our parents gave us a good life. We played sports with our friends.
I was better at football.
You mean soccer? You are in Australia now, mate.
Don't lecture me about sport, you nerd. We were in many ways happy, but we grew up knowing that we could never speak the truth. Even as kids, Syrian President Assad tells the world that he's a strong man. But still, even the word of children can bruise his ego.
Did you know that in Syria, the Arab Spring began with literally the words of children? 3 primary school students wrote anti-government slogans on a wall. They were arrested and tortured. So the Syrian people rose up in response.
In early 2011, I marched in peaceful protest in support of freedom and democracy. It was one of the best times of my life, marching with my fellow citizens, chanting freedom over and over again. For the first time, I felt like a true and proud Syrian. Our city homes had some of the largest demonstrations in the country. We used to hold olive branches and flowers to show the soldiers that we were not armed. But still, they shot at us. Few days before my year 12 exams, at a protest, I was shot with an explosive bullet that sprayed shrapnels into my body. I was injured, but I was lucky. I watched my neighbors dying one by one, my friends, my family, all in the hope of a free and democratic Syria.
Assad government began bombing and besieging sections of the country. Our old school became a refugee camp for people fleeing the growing war between the government forces and the Free Syrian Army. At that time, it was too dangerous to go to school. However, we were still able to go to scouts. We have always been involved with the scouts, but before, it was more a way to meet friends and to give back to our community. Nevertheless, now, we had the extra obligation to help our people, making food parcels for aid agencies and assisting local refugees.
The scouts were just trying to help people fleeing from the garnish, supplying food and mattresses to sleep. But this made us a target. Our scout leader, whose only crime was supplying food to needy people, was arrested, imprisoned, and tortured to death. Our crew was scattered and never met again.
For much of this time, I was meant to be starting high school, but I could not go. For 2 years, I had to study with my mother at home. One of my jobs was to get bread, because in Homs there was not enough. Because in Homs there was no food. I would wake up at 6 a.m. at morning and stand in line. Sometimes there was bread, sometimes there was none.
Though we did have Facebook. In truth, when the internet went down, they were the worst times. The one plus of living in a war zone is that when we spent too much time on Facebook, our parents could not tell us to go outside. Like,
Yet, when we did have to go outside, the most terrifying sound I came to recognize was the sound of mortars. A rule I've learned that hearing the sound of mortars was a sign that it had passed over you. When I heard it flying over me, I would count the number of seconds before it landed. You will have 3 seconds to get to cover. For a child in war, nothing is normal. Members of our family died, and their bodies were so badly damaged that I was not even allowed to go to the funeral. War robs you even from your right to grieve.
despite the danger, I decided to go back to university to become an engineer. My mother wanted me to be a doctor. I think all Syrian mothers want their children to be doctors. Dentist is okay, but really a doctor. However, the people I respected the most were engineers, so Saad will have to be a doctor. Attending university was too dangerous, as it required going through many checkpoints, and often people get arrested indiscriminately. I was leaving a lecture one day with friends when students armed with AK-47 stopped us. Military intelligence arrived and took us to prison. I was taken into a cell and hung from the roof. My hands were tied above my head, and I was beaten. The walls of the room were full of bullets. I looked around. I wondered what horrors haunted this place. I will spare you the details. Sometimes things are better left unsaid. When I was in prison, I lay on the floor of my cell, feeling hopeless and worthless, and wondered, does anybody even care about me? Is this the same cell where my father was? Am I doomed to repeat my father's suffering? Even after my release, I still remember that feeling of helplessness. It returns to me every time I see the violence and terror all over the world. I can understand why people turn away from such horrible event. It can be too much, too overwhelming. And at times, I have to put my heart aside. I shut my heart because it hurts too much. At times, I wonder, why? Why would you torture another human? Why would you blow yourself apart to hurt others? Why would you kill your own people just to stay in power? Why does humanity seem to be pulling further apart rather than coming together?
In Syria, we have a saying, the knife is on the neck. Our family had reached that point. Homs, our city, has come from this to this. If we stayed, we were going to die. We could not say goodbye to our friends or our relatives, and we left in the night and fled to Lebanon.
On the way, we were stopped by Assad's troop, and I was pulled off the bus. I was taken for questioning because I was 19, the age of military service. The commander demanded to know why I'm leaving for Lebanon and not serving in the army. At that time, I was sick, and I had the doctor's letter in my back pocket, written in English. I showed it to him, and I told him, it says that I was too sick to serve. The commander could not read the letter, and he actually was reading it upside down. But still, he let me go.
So basically, he was checking a Sikh even before coming to Australia. We flew from Lebanon to Egypt and tried to restart our lives in Cairo. But our passports were about to expire, and we faced deportation. Thankfully, we were lucky to have an uncle in Australia, and he sponsored us to come here. We arrived 2 years ago and began learning English. We also rejoined the Scouts by becoming part of the Cliff Core Rover crew in Victoria. We did this in the honor of our Scout leader who was killed and in the memory of all Syrian Scouts.
I also learned English by watching Australian Parliament, especially Parliament Question Time. It's my favorite program. It's amazing, they talk for hours and never seem to answer a question. But at times, our hearts go home. Syria is racked by dictatorship and oppression. Terrorist attacks are a daily occurrence. The government itself inspires terror in the citizens. The goal of terrorists is division in the community. What they want is for individuals like us, Syrians, Muslims, and refugees, to feel isolated in their new communities. Our greatest tool against radicalization is community and acceptance. Nothing gives someone a better sense of community than the Scouting. Having rejoined the Scouts, we began working to give back to the people who have welcomed us, the Australian community.
We have also gone back to school. Omar is completing a business degree, and I am finishing my year 12 And I even finished the 5th in Victoria in one of my subjects.
To be fair, it was Arabic.
Shut up! Now, we have been here for 2 years, and we learned many things about Australia. Yet, we are still trying to figure out how AFL works. Well, I mean, at least we know the most important rule.
Do not support Collingwood.
As you may tell, our English needs some work. But I mean, it's still not too bad. Omar can even say
Xray.
the right way.
I will tell you something. Saad is pretty good at chucking fair dinkum snacks on the Barbie, especially on Saturday Avo down at Bunnings. We've been saying those phrases to one another, but my dad has no idea what that means because none of it is in the dictionary. This book represents the history of our family, a history that involved dungeons and darkness, but it also represents our future. And it's because of Australia that our future is bright. We are indebted to you, Australia. You have accepted our family and given us a new life and new opportunities. And we cannot thank you enough. But we are just one family. There are many more who are still desperately need a home. The Australian government promised to take 12,000 Syrian refugees last year. Please honor that promise. And if we can do more, please do more. Right now, around the world, there's fear of people like us. A fear that our religion or culture is against freedom, against democracy, and against human rights. But believe us when we say this. As children of a father who was tortured for 11 years, and as refugees from a country that was torn apart by a brutal dictatorship and evil extremists, we know how important these things are. No one appreciates the rain like a man who nearly died of thirst. So to those people who are afraid from Syrians, refugees, or Muslims, we are free people. We are not terrorists. We are doctors and lawyers, fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, and now we hope to be Australians.